Some learners are not being taught to drive, they're being taught little robot rituals. Handbrake on every time I stop, never cross your arms. And then guess what happens? They turn up to the driving test feeling overwhelmed and scared to make any decisions at all. The driving test is not a game where you press the same button in the same order and hope the examiner likes it. That is not driving, that is a performance. So in this video, we are going to go through outdated driving advice that you should stop following blindly. This one drives me mad. Some learners come to me after being taught by someone else. Sometimes it's mum and dad, which I completely understand. But driving instructors, every time they stop, they turn into little Duracell bunnies and start pulling the parking brake. It doesn't matter how long they're stopping for, it doesn't matter in any situation. Just pull the friggin' parking brake. Lights go red, parking brake. Quick, neutral. Lights change, quick, first gear, quick, parking brake, quick. And then they stall the car. And everybody behind them hates them, and you've got to ask yourself, what is the point? Here is an absolute perfect example. I'm at the red traffic light. I'm the front car. There's someone behind me. There's two cars behind me. I could go to neutral. I could pull this handbrake and I could sit here. But the second those lights change, I've given myself 2 extra jobs to do now. Or I could keep it in first gear. I could keep my parking brake off. We're not on a hill, so I've got no risk. And then the lights change and I can carry on nice and quickly without delaying anyone. Now, in some situations, you may very well want to put the parking brake on and neutral, but do you have to in every situation? Definitely not. It's just an extra 2 jobs that you don't really need. Unless, of course, you're on a hill. Then you really do need to. Tell me in the comments, does this relate to you in any way? Have you been taught to do this? Do you teach people to do this? And if so, why? I'd love to hear it. The parking brake is a tool, not a nervous habit. They do not need a full cockpit ceremony every time the wheels stop turning. And this is another one learners are taught to do just like robots. And there actually isn't a big problem when you're learning to drive to do this like a robot. In fact, at the very beginning of your driving journey, it's good just to build a habit. And that is always signaling in any situation. Just get that signal on. No. Signaling is communication. It's not a ritual, it's not decoration, it's not something we just robotically do. The idea of signaling is signal when it's going to help someone. If there is absolutely no one there, like this situation here, absolutely no dog walker, no other car, what is the benefit of me pulling off and signaling? There is absolutely zero benefit. And the examiner would tell you exactly the same, and so would the police tell you exactly the same. If there's no one to signal for, it's an absolute pointless ritual. And on top of that, if you're training to be a driving instructor, this is how far it goes. If you're training to be a driving instructor and you pull off on the side of the road and there is absolutely no evidence of a single person around, they will actually fault you for signaling, because it shows to them you haven't looked, you haven't used your common sense. You might have looked, but you haven't seen, you haven't registered, you're not aware of your surroundings. Now, when you're learning to drive, as I mentioned, you're not going to be faulted for this, so it doesn't matter. If you're not sure, safest bet is always to signal. But do you have to for every situation? No. The far more important question is, who's going to benefit if I signal? Is it going to help someone, or is it going to hinder someone? Let me know. There's no one on that side. There's no one in that mirror, and there's no one on that shoulder. So if I signal, is that going to help anyone at all? And the answer is no, so I don't need to. If I still want to signal, just for the sake of keeping a good habit, there is nothing wrong with that at all. But will you be marked down for not signaling when there's no one to signal for? No. No, you won't. In this situation, I have left my signal on because a car's just going past me and there's a car ahead of me as well. How were you taught to signal? Were you taught to signal when you need to, or is it just a religious thing? We just have to just signal ritualistically everywhere. What does this line here mean? This is called a give way line. A give way line means give way. Another way of thinking about give way is continue if it's safe to do so. What a give way line doesn't mean is doing exactly what I've just done, and that's stop blindly for every single give way line. There's a sign that you have to stop for, and there's a sign that you should only stop for if it's a need. A stop sign, you stop for because it's a legal requirement. A give way line, continue if it's safe to do so. Now, some giveways are going to be really closed junctions, meaning you can't see until you get to the very end. In those situations, you very well may need to stop. But that doesn't mean in every situation you have to stop at every give way line. Now, I know a lot of parents do, when they're with their children, they're teaching them to drive, they do teach them to stop at every junction because they feel unsafe, they haven't got a second pair of pedals like driving instructors, so I fully understand this. But at some point, as you get closer and you want to go for your driving test, this is something you have to be able to do. Continue when it's safe to do so. We can see in the distance we have a give way sign. If it is clear to go, I am not going to stop because I don't need to, but I am going to go into first gear and still roll to a walking speed. The difference is I'm going to start looking early, much slower, to decide if I can carry on. And with that big thing plowing at me, I'm going to say no, but I am going to carry on after. Now, if I'd stopped and put my parking brake on, then could I have done that? No. Continuing at every single give way is not going to be possible, but nor should we be aiming to stop at every single give way, because a give way line is not a stop sign dressed up in different clothes. How have you been taught? Have you been taught to slow down and continue when it's safe to do so, or have you been taught to stop at every single line? And if you're getting ready for your driving test, part of it is knowing where these awkward junctions are. So if you want to explore some of the awkward junctions on the routes in your area, have a look at the app. There is a completely free route that you can do with mum, dad, or driving instructor, whoever you want. This is probably the biggest thing that's going to make you look like you're not ready to take your driving test. This is going to make you look like a learner. And this is not going when there's a safe gap. It's looking for perfection, looking for a clear road where there's not going to be a car. Guys, you're in the UK. That's not going to happen. And this is where it comes in that you have to start looking for the space, not for the danger. When you do this, you're avoiding making a decision. Caution is good, freezing is not good. If you are planning to wait till there are no cars left in London, you're going to have a sad awakening. What we do always want to do with give way lines is approach at a walking speed, because they're always going to be quite close junctions. So I'm going to be turning left at the end of here. I'm still doing 20 miles per hour. I'm approaching it in second gear and I'm slowing down to a jogging speed. 2 car lengths away, clutch is going down, I'm rolling into first. I can't see, so this is why I want to get to the walking speed. And I'm still rolling and there's a space, so I carry on. Now the beauty of that is it's far easier and faster to get up to speed when you're still rolling, because you don't have to get the bite anywhere near as quickly. It's just much easier. And what that means is even if there is a car there, provided we have time to go without slowing them down, that's what we're going to do. So let's have a look. Yeah, okay, well it happens to be clear that way, so we can go. Doing a cheeky signal. Now the aim is to look for a gap, not for cars, because on a roundabout, guess what you're always going to find? You're going to see the cars. Now there is a car there, but he's currently stopped. So have I got a space? Yes, I have got a space, and I'm going to take it. As long as I don't slow them down, I am absolutely fine. Now, in fairness, that was a bit of a cheeky space. But this guy here, he's looking for space as well. He's thinking, can I get out there? And the answer was no. No, you couldn't get out there, my friend. Now, coming to the end of the road, I'm going to look for space. This car's stopping, so it looks like I'm going to have to, but I'm still going to approach slowly. And I'm looking to the right. There is a car coming, so after the car, is there a space? And he's turning in, so yes, I'm continuing on. That is an example of looking for space, not for cars. Now I'm in second gear, so I'm easing off, letting the car brake on its own, engine braking, using a little bit of brake as well if needed, but I'm looking for spaces. Loads of cars, but they're all exiting down there, so what do? I carry on. Slower is not always safer. So what I'm talking about with this is I get lots and lots of people learning to drive and they get to their driving test, okay guys, and suddenly they will start driving extra cautiously everywhere because they're thinking slow is safe. Unfortunately, some roads are built to be slow, like when you're in town, there's parked cars, hazards. Some roads, when there's nothing, are built to make progress. Dual carriageways, motorways, clear open roads with no hazards on the road. There for making progress, getting from A to B in a normal amount of time. If you're delaying everyone, that's not going to go down very well. So it's a case of understanding the difference. Slower is always safer. When people get on the driving test, sometimes they get a little bit panicky and the brain lets them down. It starts making them do silly things like this. We're going on a nice clear open road. You can see there's nothing close to us, and I'm doing 22 miles an hour, and people do that on the driving test and then they wonder why they get faults for going too slow, because well, it's not making progress. You're not helping everyone. You just think about the driver behind you. How would they feel? How would mum and dad feel if they're following someone trying to get to work and they're going really slow for no reason? It'd be sad, wouldn't it? When you need to slow down, like this, red light. I'm not going to delay anyone by slowing down now because there's nowhere to go. So slow is not always safe. Appropriate is always safe. Crawling everywhere does not make you careful. It makes you look unsure. So here's a question for you. Do you think people are more likely to fail for going too fast or too slow? Do people fail for going too slow? And now we're looking at the opposite problem, national speed signs. Anytime I have a learner, the first thing we do is we do a country road and they can see the national speed sign and they know what that means. They can go up to 60 and they say, I don't know how I'm supposed to do 60 on this road. And that's not what the sign means. A national speed sign is exactly the same as a 20, a 30, a 40, a 50 sign. If you're in a 20 zone and there's a car in front of you, you think it's dangerous, you don't go 20, you go 10. If you're in a 30 and there's a car parked and you're trying to squeeze through a gap, you don't do 30, you do 10. So if you go down a 60, a national speed limit road, and you think, I shouldn't go 60 down here, guess what? Don't go 60. And that's all these signs mean. They just mean use your common sense. Whatever you think is a safe speed to do, that's what you should do. A national speed limit sign is basically a lazy speed sign. The government can't afford to put signs everywhere on a road that's barely used compared to a main road. So they just stick a national speed limit sign up to say, use your common sense. And that's the tricky bit. It's the country roads. It's actually learning the safe speed to be on a country road. And again, that's where those test routes are really useful if you ever want to have a look and experience. If you've got test routes in your area that you know are country roads, have a look at the link and just do one of those. Okay, here we go, guys. We've seen our national speed limit sign. So we hit the sign and boom, let's put our foot down. No, got a giveaway sign in front of us. It's really narrow. You've got to make your own mind up for the situation. You spot the national speed, which means you can go up to national speed if you consider it safe to do so. But most of the time you can't, especially if you notice on the road that there are 1, no road markings, or 2, no curbs. If you see one of those signs, that is normally a very clear situation. It's not going to be safe to do national speed limit. And as you can see from these bends, it's definitely not safe to do anywhere near national speed limit. In the driving test, there is no such thing as a 6-point observation check. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you seen your mum and dad doing a 6-point monkey check like an owl around the car? Because I can say I've not seen any real driver do that. So if that's the case, then what's the point in doing it when you're learning to drive? Instead, you've got to use some common sense with it. If there's a chance of someone being on this side that could affect us in some way, then definitely have a look. But if there's absolutely no chance, maybe there's a brick wall and there's just no one there and you can see your central mirror, there's no one there, there's no way someone could have got there, you're not going to be marked down for not checking that side. And what is really, really more important is that you just remember to check before pulling off. And the most important place you can check is where the danger is coming from. And I can assure you the danger is coming from the roadside, over here. And it's this blind spot and this mirror that we really need to be checking. Of course, if you check this mirror, you can see there's a cyclist or someone coming down or someone's been coming down, then 100% have a look on this side as well. I'm just saying it's not a religious ceremonial thing that you must do a 6-point check every single time because it just makes you look like a learner. This is one of my biggest things in driving because it completely changes how you appear to drive. And it's called engine braking and it's massively useful. It's the opposite to coasting. But for some reason, lots of people end up very scared of it, or they get told that it's bad for the car, both of which utter rubbish if done correctly. And you will learn to love engine braking as well when you start paying for your own fuel and realize how much money it's going to save you. Also going to make your driving much smoother and make you look way more in control. Again, we've got red lights coming up. We've got a guy on our left who's flying into them. I'm going to slow down really early because I'm not going to waste fuel like he is. I brought into second, clutch back up, and then I'm just letting the car go. And hopefully the aim is those lights are going to change before I get there. I don't think they will this time, but that's the idea. There you go, before it stopped, and that makes your driving so much more fun and easier because you aren't having to constantly stop and get the bite. Same idea, again, we're looking the distance, and this is the problem, it requires you to look further ahead. I can see the car's stopped there because there's a red light. So I'm going to drop it into second gear early, clutch back up. That helps the engine brake us a little bit slower. Use the brake to continue braking even slower. Clutch is going down 2 car lengths away and I haven't had to stop. That is a perfect example of engine braking. Makes your driving much smoother, makes the whole journey more comfortable. And it makes it more fun because stopping's not fun, guys. Stopping sucks. So remember, smooth drivers save fuel, panicky drivers buy fuel. Engine braking is not the problem, it's the bad clutch control and gear changes that are the problem. If you want to get better at those, you know what to do, practice. Now, if you saw my previous video, you will know I've already covered this, but it's still worth mentioning again, and that is crossing the arms. Whoever's telling you that you can't cross your arms is talking utter rubbish. If you don't believe me, ask any examiner on the planet. There is no mark for crossing your arms. In fact, a lot of people feel more comfortable with it. It gives them far more control. And yeah, frankly, there's a good place in my heart for crossing the arms. Now, that doesn't mean it's the only way. There's nothing wrong with feeding the wheel, but if you're being told you have to feed the wheel and that crossing your arms is really bad, it's just not true. Ask them why. And the beauty with crossing your arms is you get a far bigger turn. It's far easier to turn. Can often be much smoother as well. Now, that's not to say you have to cross your arms everywhere in any shape or form. I'm just saying do what is most comfortable for you. The days of having to drive, holding hands in certain places and turning in certain ways are over as long as the car is fully in your control. Learners often see road markings and start treating them like lava. Don't step on the lava. Road markings have meaning. For instance, you've got broken white lines and you've got solid white lines, and they mean completely different things. When we're learning to drive, it's very easy to get very muddled with the road markings. For instance, here on the left, you can see there's a cycle lane. What does it tell us about this cycle lane though? It's got a broken white line, so what does that actually mean? That means if we need to use that, we can. But if it's a solid white line, it means we really can't. Okay, we're turning right here, guys. Now you see we've got these chevrons here and they're broken, which means if I want to go on those, if I need to go on those, I can go on those. Now, if you think about the cars behind me, what do they really want me to do? Do they want me to stay in the road as much as possible and get that box perfect? Or do they want me to get out the way, go on the broken white lines, allowing them to continue, reducing the risk of them hitting me? I would guess it was the second one. If there is broken white lines, you can use them if it's safe to do so, and you need to. So the point of this video is not that all old driving advice is wrong. The problem is when you guys and me follow driving advice blindly and we try and stick to a one-size-fits-all routine, it doesn't work. So if you're going to take anything away from this video, if someone is teaching you how to drive and anything you do in driving and you're doing it and you're thinking, why am I doing that? Ask them as well, why should I do that? And if they've got a good reason, great. If the reason is because I told you to, or because that's how I was taught, or that's the rules, well, show me the rules. I mean, some things are rules. Stopping at red lights, not breaking the speed limit, legal, yeah. But checking mirrors blindly, not crossing arms, putting it to neutral, they're not rules. They're opinions. Now, if you watch this video, I guarantee it's going to help you pass your driving test.